And you're very welcome along to this week's Team 33 Enda Coll here with you for the next hour or so. Coming up on this evening's show, you might have heard of Manchester United, but you may not have heard of FC United of Manchester, a club that broke away made of disillusioned fans who were angry at the Glaziers taking over Manchester United, and they decided, you know what, we're going to go and found our own club, and that they did. And now they have a stadium that's worth 6 million. They're playing in the seventh tier of English football, and they're loving life. So I'm going to be chatting to their community liaison officer, Vinnie Thompson, about the foundation of the club and why they broke away from Manchester United. Before that, though, Colm Boohig is on the line with me now because we are chatting all things Sunday League football. Before I did ask, I sent out a tweet earlier on to see if anybody had any Sunday League football that just defined, what Sunday League football actually is. Got plenty of them. A lot of them I actually can't read out in there, though, which kind of sums up where we're at. Colm, firstly, give us some background of your Sunday League experience. Where did you play? How many clubs did you play? I know you don't play anymore because of your toe, but
my toe.
Did you not break your toe?
Ankle.
Oh, ankle.
Just for the record, ankle. It's true. It's a really non-contact sport. How many clubs did I play for is a good question. I was with one club for like 10 or 15 years and then joined another for about 5 years. And then I moved out of Cork. So I was pretty much a two-club man. I played like a few matches like illegally with a few teams, as you do throughout the years. But like I had two primary clubs.
So you have a big barn out of hair now. Were you a mercurial player that got kicked around, or what kind of player were you?
I used to be like all energy and just run up and down all day long, right? And then I went through the glass door, that Roy Keane story, and then I just came out the other side as like a player who didn't run around that much and just would ask for the ball to feet as opposed to ahead of him. That's generally how you describe it. Now that's for better and very much for worse. That's how I would describe myself. How about you? I think you're a bit of a.
Well, the manager seems to think I'm a pacey winger, but I have little pace. And
really, you look surprised by that.
Well, my pace has gone up and down. I used to be very fast when I was younger. I did start off in schoolboy football as a pacey winger, but I was very small. And then the usual 17, 16-year-old putting on a little bit too much weight with the bad eating and bad drinking. So I moved into central midfield and became a bit of a commander in there. And now I'm back out onto the wing because I've lost that weight and got a little bit of pace back. So I don't know how I would describe myself. I'd be consistent in any position you put me in.
I can't imagine you with weight on. Was this like the before picture and the before and after of a documentary? What are we talking here?
We're not talking extremes. Like I wasn't a big man, but I would have been about 2 stone heavier than I am right now.
No way.
Yeah, big chubby face. I had 2 chins. That's in college. It was very much a college thing, when you put on the college stone where you drink too much in the first year or so and then you give up sports and then all that there carry on. But I got back into it and I'm back out in the wing. I'm loving life for Drumconda AFC.
Yeah, I see them. They tweet you every so often. Are you the most famous member of Drumconda AFC?
Oh, I don't know if I would define myself as famous in any sense of the word. No, I wouldn't say so. There's bound to be someone else in the team that is doing something. These people who are actually secretly working for a very big company, and they don't actually know. There's a guy playing for our team, but it took us about a year and a half to figure out what he actually did.
Yeah,
because he drove around in a brand new Range Rover and had really flashy clothes, and we were like, "What does this guy do?" It turns out he owns his own company. Like he's like a proper CEO, and none of us knew. Like a lot of us had a lot of sketchy ideas in our head of what he actually did, but it turned out it was actually all above board and all legal. So you get all those ringers. So we decided we're going to talk about some Sunday League football because why not? So I believe you have a couple of stories for me. I'll start you off. I'll let you go first. I have a couple of stories from my days as well, and a couple of stories that have been sent in to me by other people.
Yeah, it's the best part of Sunday League football or youth football. So don't mind like talking about how good you are, how good you weren't. Like it's really the stories that are the fun parts. Like I remember making my debut for this pretty good team in Cork. Now we both agreed then that we wouldn't name teams or players here, so I'll edit out those specific mentions. But I played for a half decent team in Cork. Made my debut about my early 20s now when this happened, and we were playing away side in the league, and we showed up at their place and they had a lovely pitch. And we saw them warming up, and they had all their official club tops on when they were warming up, like you would see like before a Premier League game on Super Sunday. They all had their professional looking zip up tops on, and they were engaging in very sophisticated drills before the match. Meanwhile, we showed up in like separate cars in our own individual personal clothes. Quickly realised that we only had 12 players, none of which were a goalkeeper. And it was one of those ones where, like, I only joined the team because I had like a friend on the team. I didn't really know anybody else, and I think I had trained with them like 2 or 3 times max to that point. So I didn't really know what to expect, and I didn't know who the keeper was. But the word got around in the dressing room: "Where's the keeper? He's not showing up." It's the usual thing where you text him and you call him, but there was no answer. So we went out to warm up on the pitch, and at the very last minute, the decision was for one of the lads' dads, who I'd say, like, to put it generously, was in his mid-50s, and he showed up in someone else's car as the passenger because he was very much hungover, and he was wearing a hoodie, tracksuit pants, runners, had his phone in his pocket, and he went in goal, and we won 3-0.
That's a job. I was half expecting you to go in nets there, because that is a very common thing where you just join a team, goalkeeper isn't quite there, and you're asked to do a job in nets for your first game, and it's happened to me before. I do remember my debut, and it's not quite as bad as that, but I'll go into the story that I have that's actually better than my debut, because this is a highly uninteresting story. But I was 15, made my debut for the local team. Because I'd switched there was 2 teams essentially. There was the local team that played in Ulster Senior League, and then there was a Saturday League team, and I wasn't getting much game time for the Ulster Senior League team, so I moved to the Saturday League team, made my debut at 15, and a corner came in. We were defending a corner came in, cross, headed away, comes to me at the edge of our own box, and I flicked it through the oncoming defender's legs, like kind of, like a back heel.
Yeah.
Back heeled it, and then did a around the world around another defender, and then got absolutely nailed by the third defender. And I got up, I didn't get a free. And I got up, I said to the referee, I was like, "What the hell was that?" He came absolutely through me. He was like, "You're playing senior football now, boy."
But hold on, you didn't around the world.
Well, I don't know if that's the right term. Do you know the one where you twirl?
Oh, the Zidane turn.
Is that the Zidane turn?
Yeah, yeah. Because around the world is just like a stationary position where you do it at the flick.
Oh yeah, no, it's not that. It was the one where you twirl.
Yeah,
that's yeah. And I was just like, just because it's senior football doesn't mean that's not a foul. I mean, like, it was crazy stuff. But the story that I actually remember to this day is, again, 16-year-old me playing for the senior team, and there was a guy in our team, and I won't name him, but he loved a drink. And often he would never turn up because he was going to watch the football, and he'd go to the pub instead of going to the game. And we turned up one day, and the pub's only over the road, like it's 30 seconds over the road from the football pitch. And we realized that we only had 10 players, and we knew he was in the pub, so we were like, we'll just go over and get him. Somebody went over, collected him, took him over. He was about 4 or 5 pints deep at this stage. It would have been like a 3 o'clock kickoff. So he came onto the pitch, smoking a fag before the kickoff, and played left back, and he scored 2 goals and was man of the match. And that sounds made up, but it's not.
No, I completely believe it. They're the best stories. There's so many of them that you hear of these, like, oh, this guy was absolutely class, but he loved the pint. And it's one of those stories like, oh, he would have played in the Premier League if he minded himself. He definitely would. And now, like, no one knows what he does, like, or no one knows where he is. He's one of these mysterious types.
I saw Chris Wilder talking about this, and it was really interesting because he was speaking about Jamie Vardy, and Chris Wilder, obviously a proper English bloke. He says he often goes down to the pub to watch a football match, and people talk to him and said, like, Jamie Vardy come up and people said, "Oh yeah, I would have done the same, but the knee." And Chris Wilder turns and he's like, I just turned to them and say, "Well, you know what? You didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't, and you wouldn't. If you would have done it, you would have done it." And there's so many people that like talk about it, and they were never good enough, but they always believed. Which brings me to the ringers, because there are in a league where you can sign players on multiple occasions and they come and go as they please. Dublin opened my eyes to the amount of ringers that you can end up on your team. And I got sent in this story by a friend of mine who plays for a club in Dublin, not to be named. And he said, a guy signed for our team. He was apparently Brazilian, but we would soon learn that we didn't know what was real and what wasn't about him. The stories he told from his background differed from person to person. One story was that he was adopted by Navajo parents, but ran away from them, and because they didn't agree with his lifestyle. Another one was that he was going out with a Serie A footballer and had actually played underage Serie A himself, but that was contradicted by the story of him playing underage football for Shane Long at Southampton, despite being 8 years younger than him, and the fact that Shane Long didn't actually come through the Southampton Academy. What we did know about this brilliant Brazilian lad, though, was that he wore Crocs, he tied his hair up using a shoelace, and he was one of the best players that we signed in years.
I love it. Like it's the most interesting element of any level of football, professional or otherwise, is these mysteriously talented people. Like they don't even belong in real life.
No,
like,
they don't.
They're like Kramer from Seinfeld. They're like sitcom characters.
Yeah, I can vouch for that person. He was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Oh,
really?
Far too good.
Yeah.
Far too good for the league that he was playing in.
Yeah,
Another one we were sent in was it's titled Scuba Steve. So we had a goalkeeper called Scuba Steve who played in nets. He got the name Scuba Steve because he wore goggles, and he would dive for absolutely every single ball, no matter where it was going in the net. He stopped turning up when he lost his goggles, but it turned out he didn't lose his goggles. The manager had stolen them and hidden them because he was absolutely useless.
That's the other side.
It's a bit harsh.
Like I've seen fellas who just like they can't throw the ball in a throw-in to the point where the ref's like, you're going to have to change the throw-in taker because we can't continue with this person taking a throw-in. But I love something like football. Like, it just seems to attract the best characters, like the lunacy of the world. So I remember there was one guy we had on the sideline who he was the most friendly and charming person, and then the whistle would blow for the start of the match, and he would just turn into this crazed lunatic who would not leave the referee alone. And he wasn't playing in one particular match. Same story, like straight away the game starts, he lays into the ref. So our manager sends him over to the other side. You go away, like you're annoying the rest of us. Go away. So then he walked over to the other side of the pitch, and he actually met a fella that he knew. So he went over there and started talking to him. But the thing is, like, this guy was so sound, so he was just asking your man, like, "Oh, how are you? Yeah, you're doing well. Oh, yeah." And he would know everything about this person, like, and make them feel like he really wants to chat to him. And then the ref would make this decision, and your man would go crazy, and he would repeatedly do this. And then the ref says to the opposition's bench, "Lads, you're going to have to get rid of him, or else something's going to happen." And they're like, "We don't even know who he is." It's like the ref's like, "Here, player, go over there, will you?
Yeah.
Go over." And he goes into the car park and screams from the car park in his car. It's like, that's the beautiful thing. You can't stop it.
Yeah, no, that's the thing about Sunday League, because it's often played in park pitches, right?
What are you going to do?
We were playing it against a team last season, and they got a man sent off, and then he was still shouting at the ref when he was off the pitch, and the ref sent the manager off as well because he was shouting, and the manager was just like, "Where do you want me to go? This isn't a stadium. Like, this is a public park. Like, do you want me to go over to the other pitch over there?" And the ref was like, "I don't care where you go, just go away from this pitch."
That's fantastic.
And like, obviously, it's not right that referees get as much abuse as they do.
I don't know how they do it, because I know they don't get much money for it. So I don't know. I also don't know how managers organize the teams, because they get nothing for it. Like, these people just want a distraction from life.
No, they do great work, in fairness to them. And I often think, especially now, I don't want to go into COVID too much, but especially during COVID, like, a lot of the talk was about the GAA and how we must get the GAA back on people rely on it and volunteers. They do great work.
Yeah.
And amateur football in Ireland was completely overlooked in this sense. Like nobody was talking about whether or not we were allowed to play in the Leinster Senior League or not. And I mean, like I personally made a choice that I'm not going to train and I'm not going to play regardless until this has died down. But there are a lot of people who want to play football, and they're not being talked about at all.
I remember you pointed that out at the start of COVID, all right, and I know it's reflected across the country because I'm still in the football WhatsApp group from the last team I played with in Cork, and that's all that the WhatsApp says. Like, when are we going to be able to train? When's the next match? And then people start losing interest as a result. They start doing other things like it.
Yeah,
it's danger to it.
I think there's a bigger turnover in football as than GA, and like it's easier to give up for people, I think. Outside of the serious stuff, let's get back to the story. Yeah. So I do have 2 stories left of my own. So I actually forgot about these, but so we have a player called Dez Kelly, and being Dublin, I'm playing in a Dublin league. Dez Kelly Interiors. Every time he would do anything, so the Herald reports on it or on the UCFL games, and we used to play in the UCFL. And anytime Dez did anything, it would be the headline, and they would always make a joke. So if he set up a goal, it wouldn't be the goal that would make it. It would be something like Dez Kelly rolled the carpet out for the striker. Like there would always be a pun about it. It was just so unfortunate. Another one is last year or 2 years ago, 2 seasons ago, we were still playing UCFL football, United Churches League, and we were playing Leinster Junior League, the Cup, or Leinster Junior Cup rather, or FAI Junior Cup, one step above the FAI Junior Cup, because we were playing outside of Dublin, and we're the only team in the UCFL left playing in this tournament, which was quite impressive because there were teams above us. There was like 3 divisions above us, and we were the only ones still playing. So we got drawn against Ferrybank in Waterford, down away to their game. Massive club in Waterford, brilliant facilities.
Club,
go down to them, and naturally it was a tough fixture. They beat us 2-0 or 2-1 on the day, but Ferrybank had said to us, you're traveling down to us, we'll feed you before you head up back to Dublin. And we were like, fair play to us, that's very sound. And we were all expecting like maybe like GA style, rolling out the sandwiches after the game and soup, or like a roast carvery or something. And after the game, we go into the dressing room and we asked our manager, where are we going to eat? And he was like, we're going to a Chinese pub. We all kind of looked at him, and our manager would be well known for telling a few fibs. So we're like, all right, where are we actually going? He was like, I told you, it's a Chinese pub. So we hop on the bus, and all of us are still convinced we're going to end up at an Irish pub with a carvery. Sure enough, it was actually a pub owned by a Chinese family who ran a Chinese inside it, and we were all served up 4-in-1s on plates while we got to watch the Man City Arsenal game, which was on the same day.
Unbelievable.
Feed of pints back up on the bus. Great nice crack.
Would you recommend that to all football teams?
It was brilliant. Like it was, like it was proper Sunday league football. It was great crack. Yeah. Like I think that's what I miss the most about, sport, is the taking part. It's the crack that you have on the bus on the way to games, and then you might head out for a few, like Sunday league especially. You head out for a few pints if you're playing on a Saturday, with the lads. You go out and you watch the 3:00, 5:30 kickoffs, and then you might end up out. Like it's just great crack, like.
It's just seeing the faces then of the players the next morning when you have to go to the match, and it's like lads trying to down Lucozade as quickly as possible and just slapping themselves in the face like 10 seconds before the ref starts the match. And then as soon as the match starts, it's ultra competitive. You snap out of it, and then you snap back into it afterwards. Well, I was sent some great ones there when I did the call out during the week. One fella sent me this one. I'm going to keep it anonymous as much as I can. So obviously all these stories are from adulthood. Actually, I didn't get any kids stories. It was just all like actual Sunday league as opposed to youth football. So this is one, and this is all a quote, obviously. I showed up to a game for my team half cut from the night before. One of the lads was driving, and I was asleep the whole way out to the match, which was a bit of a drive. I got dropped due to the stink of booze off me. We were 3-0 up with 30 minutes to go. So I come on to see out, in inverted commas, the game. The opposition keeper kicks a high ball down on top of me at centre half. The ball moves in the wind and is dropping in front of me. I decided the best thing to do is to do a diving header to clear the pitch. I completely missed the ball while in mid-flight. It hits the ground and then bounces off my face. They get the ball and score. 3-1, mortified. Then they play a through ball in, and in my haste to make up for the previous mishap, I absolutely annihilated the centre forward. Penalty, 3-2. I'm in the horrors now from the hangover and from my performance, which isn't helping matters. I'm pretty sure I then misplaced the pass, which resulted in a goal not long after, 3-3. I had been on the pitch for 11 minutes. I ended up handing all momentum to the opposition, and they beat us 4-3 in the end. That was 10 years ago, and I'm still reminded about it to this day.
I'm too right.
I just love that. 11 minutes, 3 goals. It's like Spurs against West Ham recently.
At one point in time, I was convinced that I played better hungover.
I could never do it. Like, I mean, that would be my way to convince lads the night before. I was like, oh, come on, we'll go out with George Bested. And they'd be fine. Like, but then I just couldn't see properly the next day. I couldn't actually see.
Yeah, well, I don't do it anymore. Because we play on a Saturday, so I if I were to have a few drinks, it would be a few, because I can't do it anymore. When I was 19 to 23, I could just do whatever and
peak drinking age,
be absolutely fine. But now I can't do it.
There's always one fella on every team who never drank and was incredibly fit, and you'd be so jealous of him the day of the match then. But yeah, like, I quickly stopped doing that the night before games, the day before games, because it was pointless me playing the next day.
Yeah,
it was literally useless. Like,
well, the further up you go in the divisions, the sooner you realize you can't afford to be hungover for the game.
No, like, you know that feeling when, it's usually out wide as well. It's the opposition fullback or winger, and they're just whizzing by you, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't be playing. I'm not fit enough here to play this game. Yeah, there is a certain level where you can do what you want. Like, I know a guy who plays up here, who's from Cork, but lives in Dublin, and he plays for a team, and they just play matches. They don't train, and he said it's ideal. You just rock up. You don't even know the players that well, and they won the league recently because they had enough good players to win the league. But that's the beauty of it. Like, it's the most accessible sport in the world. So that's all these great stories. Like, there's no niche to it. You can play, and there's a level for everybody.
Yeah, no matter where in the world you go, if you move to a different city, you will find a team that suits your level.
Easily.
Yeah, it's beautiful. But I think that's what I miss most. The crack of it, the training, which I actually don't get to do enough of because I work in the evening times. But the matches are like ultra competitive for the standard. No matter what standard you go to, there are people who are putting their life on the line to win these games.
I know. Yeah. Go on.
What's the worst pitch you've ever played on?
Oh, there was a pitch in West Cork. We showed up and there was a dead sheep on it.
Oh.
So we had to move this, and we were actually quite young, like, and we had to collectively move the sheep off it, and there was like such a slope on the pitch that it was equivalent to a handbrake start in a driving test. You know, if you put the ball down, it would roll. It would continue to roll, and there were divots everywhere. So there was a distinct advantage playing downhill. So if you won the toss, you could try and score as many goals as possible in the first half, and then Kevin Keegan management style, just outscore the opposition the first half and hold forward in the second. Because I played there a few times, and that pitch was never improved throughout the years. Yeah,
it's always a tough choice that when either there's a strong wind or there's a slope. Do you try score as many goals as possible and then batten down the hatches in the second half, or do you go for the defensive mode in the first half and then all guns blazing second half? I tend to the all guns blazing from the start because you have more energy and you can fly past the opposition and you can put the game dead before it actually gets to halftime. The worst pitch that I ever played on was a couple of years ago in Dublin in a park pitch, and I'm not really sure. I can't remember who it was against or who plays there, but the pitch was massive. I mean, I'm not talking like just a naturally big pitch. I'm talking this pitch was as big and as wide as a GAA pitch. You couldn't kick the ball far enough to get it across to the other pitch. It was at least a 2 to 3 pass to get it to the other side of the pitch. It was unbelievably big. Like, I can't over exaggerate how big this pitch was.
Yeah, I Go on.
No, go on, go on.
I I hate big pitches. I just hate them. Like the smaller the pitch, the better. Just give me as small as possible. Because there's another pitch in Cork where you could easily hit a goal kick from one goal to the other, the keeper,
Yeah.
easily. Um, but then there's some. See, that's the other brilliant thing about it is that there are so many pitches around Ireland that have no right to be pitches, but they're just used as a football pitch because it's the only room that that town or village has. So they're like, there's your football pitch, like the one that I mentioned a while ago. That's the beauty. Like I remember looking at the fixture list, and there's some pitches that just be a shiver up your spine, like, oh no, not that pitch, and you're thinking about it all week. There's some like the pitches definitely improved the older I got, but I remember,
Mm.
like, I would say football now for young people is so much better suited to developing their skills because I remember playing under nines for like a pretty decent team, but like it was under nines, but it was decent for that age group. And they made us play in like the adult pitches, and we
Mm.
were playing in adult goals. So all you would have to do is hit the ball either side of the goalkeeper or just a bit higher than him.
Yeah, I
And
don't think they play
you would
full
go in.
pitch anymore.
No, they don't. Because I
No.
started off as a
Yeah,
goalkeeper.
under 12s was the first time we played full pitch, and it was full pitch from then on. But I don't think even up
We
until
going into it,
I
yeah.
think it's under 16s now is the first time you play full pitching.
Yeah, it would be, and because like what happens is you don't get enough of the ball,
Oh,
because you might see the ball 5 or 6 times in the whole match because you're too small for the pitch. Because I started off as a goalkeeper, obsessed to Peter Schmeichel, and got every United goalkeeping kit for a few years in the late '90s, early 2000s. And there's a picture of me in goal, age 9, wearing like a full Schmeichel kit because you were allowed to wear whatever kit you wanted in official matches as a goalkeeper. And I was in the adult size goals, and I looked like an ant. Like it was
yeah.
ridiculous. Like, and it was because we had a good team, so there was no shots in us. But you'd rung up scores like 15, 16 nil because the heads would drop,
Yeah.
and then the opposition would just run in and just fire in the goals. And then you'd get fellas who, as a result of scoring 50 goals a season, would get trials over in England. But sure, they'd be back after a week because like they play proper football over there and play in
Yeah.
smaller pitches. So you get overdeveloped young fellas who get a shot abroad because like the statistics read incredibly well, but they're completely misleading. I don't think that
Yeah.
happens anymore.
Speaking of Manchester United, I know you're a Manchester United fan, and what have you heard of FC United of Manchester, or what are your opinions of the Glazers?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit heartbreaking, like even to get behind United when they're doing well. Like at the time of talking, they're doing quite well in the last 2 games after the Spurs game. And you obviously want them to do well as a fan, but then you're thinking, well, the better they do in these games, the longer the Glazers will stay on and will never really develop the team properly, or I would say hire an appropriate manager, as well as Solskjaer is doing. I think we can do better, like in terms of a manager. So, and the whole like they do. Glazers do provide money for transfers. I do get that, but they're also the club is in huge debt, and I would say it's pretty obvious that the best interest of the club is earned at heart, like with the Glazers. So you ideally would want owners who have United's interest at their hearts primarily. But I don't like the longer or the more time that goes on, the less likely that's going to happen. So we're kind of stuck with them.
Yeah, I think they have been disasters for United. It's like, I mean, there was a point in time where United like genuinely worried about going out of business because of the amount of debt that they had built up, and I think United will struggle to keep developing as a club. Commercially, they'll be brilliant. As a business, they are top of the crops, top of the pops. No, top of the crops either. But as a football club, and I think when they took football club off the badge, that's when things started changing. That's when the interest of the football club started changing, and I do think they eventually United will need new owners before they can get back to the top. That's what happened at Liverpool. What needs to happen at United?
Yeah, I went to the Web Summit a couple of years ago in Lisbon, and Richard Arnold did a speech, and he was just like obviously very senior at Man United, and all he was talking about was their social media presence and how that's increasing, which is good. I mean, they are commercially brilliant and more than viable, but obviously fans are just interested in the football, so they would argue that they're trying to do both and make United this powerhouse business, which it already was anyway, but they're trying to improve that again, and they have done that off the pitch, and United are the most followed team around, but it's just there's no real sign of long-term progression, and actually, like, the Glazers have been in charge for 15 years, and it was really only because of the genius of Alex Ferguson that from 2005 to 13, United were winning all around them, was because of his genius. I mean, that last title in 2012-13 was the most average United team that won the league, but it was because of Ferguson and signing Robin van Persie and building the team around him. But since then, the last 7 years have been a monumental struggle, and it's probably what the club deserves, to be honest, because of the way it's run.
Yeah, they had no right to win that title. They also, the social media thing is still continuing to this day, because I saw when they were releasing their annual report yesterday, one of the chiefs, I can't remember who it was, said that they were the most followed club on the Chinese version of the internet, or Chinese version of Facebook. Weibo. And again, that's what they're concentrating on, instead of the fact that they're struggling on the pitch.
No, but if that's your job, fair enough. That's totally fine. I have no problem with that. It's just that, there's an absence of a director of football, and I think David Gill was just as much of a loss as Ferguson was.
Yeah, I think in general, football has lost a bit of its soul, and we will continue to lament that for years to come, including if we get this European Premier League, which just seems to be the next development of what the Premier League was in the 90s. And I have lost the connection with the club, and the FC United of Manchester, I'm going to be chatting to Vinnie Thompson after the break about it. The club came from the fact that the Glazers took it over, and they mortgaged the club, and they took away the fan aspect of it and just turned it into a business. That's sort of where it's going.
Yeah, but they don't care about that, and they also know they're going to have enough fans that remain.
Yeah, globally they will have enough fans to keep the ship going. So that's coming up after the break. Colm, thanks for your Sunday League stories.
Love this. Cheers, Enda.
We'll take a quick break.